Well, welcome back. Now, the next recipe. This is have you ever had baccala before?
Yes.
You have? Well, Franca, of course, who is a chef from the south, she does her version of it, and we always argue about it because in the north, she says we just cook it to a pulp, but of course Franca's going to do her version of it, and it's fantastic.
For the first step of the baccala, I'd like to buy some nice baccala which looks quite white. Beware when it looks yellow, and white on the flesh and also white on the skin, which the skin I have taken off. And you need to soak it for about 3 days to tenderize it, and as you see it sort of triples in size. And changing the water morning and night. The more often you change the water and the quicker it tenderizes it. And at this stage my baccala is ready to be used. I'll start off by pouring some extra virgin oil just to line the bottom of my pan. Probably about a couple of tablespoons. Then I use 2 small white onions, which I have roughly chopped, and I add them into the cold oil. Then I add a big clove of garlic. This garlic is beautiful because it's homegrown. I've chopped it finely, and it's that nice purple firm colour when you're actually using it when it's homegrown. So these are my ingredients which I'll begin with. Fry the onion and garlic until it's translucent, and the reason why I put in everything cold because I want the oil to be infused with the onion and garlic flavours. After a few minutes that my onion and garlic has wilted, I'm going to be adding in sliced red capsicum and making sure that it's nice and firm and plump when you buy it. And we just stir fry all that together for a few minutes until the capsicum softens and adds to the flavour also of the oil. At this stage we add some tomato passata, whichever one is your preference. My preference is my homemade passata. Probably not quite a bottle because I don't want it to be a very heavy sauce like a pasta sauce, just a very light tomato sauce. At this stage I'm going to add some nice ground black pepper, a nice little abundant amount of that, some nice sea salt, a nice sprinkle of that, I would say about a teaspoon, and a glass of water, distilled water I use, just to let the sauce cook even more so a little bit. At this stage, when all my ingredients are together, I'll put on a lid just halfway like that for about 20 minutes and just let it simmer slowly. Okay, so I have cleaned 4 brushed potatoes, but basically you can use any potatoes, and I have cut them in wedges, what's called a spicchio in Italian. That's the traditional way of cutting the potatoes for this recipe. So I'm going to add my potatoes in there, like so, with plenty of tomato sauce to move so that they can cook slowly, not too cramped. And at this stage I'm going to add a little peperoncino. Again, this is all according to taste. You don't have to add peperoncino, but it does give it a nice kick. So you just put in according to what your taste is. I'll just put in a tiny bit because I know that this particular peperoncino is quite strong. I've de-pipped about 100 grams of black olives, and I will add them to my dish at this stage. Cooking together slowly, it will certainly enhance this dish. So now that I've put all those ingredients in, I will cover it again, leaving the lid a little ajar for about another 10 to 15 minutes until the potatoes are cooked. Okay, now that we're ready to put our baccala into our casserole dish, I'm going to cut it up in pieces. But I'm only going to cook my baccala for 5 to 10 minutes because I really want it to keep in entire pieces. In the soaking period, my baccala has really risen nice and high, And this is the size that I like to cook with and serve my baccala. Okay, I'm going to test my potatoes to see if they're cooked. And the way I can do that is just by putting a fork through them. They are cooked, they're still firm, and that's exactly the way I want them, just before I add my baccala, or codfish as it's called. Now that my potatoes are ready, I'm adding in my codfish or baccala, and making sure that the fleshier part is on top. And now I'm going to finish that off with a generous topping of flat leaf Italian parsley. At this stage, I'll return my lid to the pot and let it cook for about 10 minutes, as no more than that, as I don't want my codfish to overcook and break up. Okay, my baccala is nearly ready to serve, so I've got a bigger spoon to handle it gently, as I don't want my potatoes to break. This is a dish that you don't actually stir continuously, you handle it as least as possible, so the idea is that your potato wedges remain intact. And then we serve our baccala again intact on top of it. So this is my baccala stufato con patate, ready to be enjoyed.
Well, viewers, wasn't that a fantastic recipe? That baccala is pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
She's a gun owl, Franca, isn't she? Now, I just want to say one thing. The one thing about agar, which I think is very important to say, is that it's a bit of a green product, because a lot of this is made from recycled.
Yeah,
Yes.
every agar is made out of over 70% recycled material.
Which is great. So that still takes me back to my nonna's days. Everything was always recycled. And of course, on that note, I'd like to thank Franca for her undying commitment in the kitchen, of course. And we want to talk about what she thought of the fantastic agar cooker. And I think I can hear her making coffee, because, of course, every Italian event, whether it's arguments or fighting or a marriage, ends with a cup of espresso coffee. Thank you, Bella. There we go for you. Prego.
Grazie.
Wonderful.
Grazie.
Thank you, Vieni. Oh, you
Grazie.
are wonderful.
Thank
Now,
you, Caterina.
what did you think?
Oh, I really enjoyed working with the agar. I must admit, you have convinced me. It was very even, consistent, all the components of the stove, and it brought me back to my childhood. Thank you for the opportunity, Peter.
It was a pleasure to
Thank
have you
so
here,
much.
Franca.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
to have you here.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you enjoyed the experience of
I
cooking
really
on the
did.
agar.
It was a real experience.
Yeah, well, there
Thank
you go,
you.
viewers. It's been another fantastic show. Peter, you're a gun as well. Thank you so
you.
much. Mwah. Franca,
Grazie.
ciao. Alla prossima. Agar, don't forget it. It's fantastic. It's going to take you back to yesteryear. It is a very, very special product, but most of all, it is the hub of the home, isn't it?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
Alla prossima. Ciao e grazie. Ciao.
Grazie, ciao.
Mi faccio un bel caffè, dai.
Ciao.